Welcome back to Footy Classified. The man from Footy Furnace is Tom Morris. Again, you spoke on Sunday night about this. Now, until he signs, it's going to be going on. This sort of drives me mad, I must admit. But
why does it drive you mad? This is the new industry we live in.
Yeah, I know, that's right. Well, I'm getting older. I find it distasteful. The Oscar Allen thing really does my head in. That they've made the guy captain of the club, and all I've heard that he's going to Hawthorn, he's going every other.
But he's out of
going
contract.
To Brisbane. Yeah, okay. But if you sign up to be the captain, don't be the captain if you're going to think about going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Don't be the captain. Say, okay, I'm going to be honest, I might go at the end of the year, but don't say you're going to be the captain. Yeah. Please.
There's been plenty of captains that have moved on in the past.
Yeah, and I've hated every single one.
but so you live in a world where player movement is not as regular as what it is now.
No, I'm happy for the player movement to happen, but I don't hear about it 2 years out.
Yeah, so Harley Reid's got 2 years to go on a contract.
All right, so he's got 2 years to go, so what's going on?
And Victorian clubs believe he is absolutely in play to come home at the end of next year. Now, whether that takes place or not, I'm not sure. But if he does go at the end of next year and ask for a trade, and again, it's a big if, it won't be because of the West Coast Eagles or the environment they've created. It will be because of the city and how difficult it's been for him to be a Ben Cousins or Nick Naitanui type figure in the city as a teenager. Like that is difficult, isn't it, Rory, to be so young with such a high profile?
It is, and this rumour is circular around my environment too. I've heard the same things, which means that there must be, with the smoke, there's a bit of fire, right? But for me, the whole city part doesn't stack up. He's a country lad. He loves fishing. He loves haul driving. He loves the outdoors.
Media attention.
Yeah, but this city suits his lifestyle. So for me, I'm like, Perth's a great spot ever for a country lad. He can go and explore the whole outdoors. So yeah, I'm a bit with Ed. I'm like, it's distasteful in a way that to talk about it so far out. And it always annoyed me when I had a year and a half or 2 years left on a contract and I just signed a 3-year deal, we'd start talking about it.
So between 2018 and 2023, 50% of players that were traded in contract. That's why we do it. That's why we talk about it.
Mate, there's
one in two does.
I have no problem with the media doing what they do. That's what we do. We're all making money from it. No problems with any of that. I just don't like it.
I'll just defend the trade landscape to the end because this is the player movement landscape the AFL wants and the fans want.
We're going to get onto this about the drug rules with the AFLPA, but I mean, I'm starting to sort of go, come on, guys. Everyone's getting paid big money these days, and we're still talking about whether, they can sit in a town or whatever. I mean, plenty of people go overseas these days. To the other side of the world to ply their trade. Every Olympic athlete has to get on the circuit. Every tennis player in the world. I mean, are we a bit mollycoddled at the moment? If you're getting paid the big money at 21 years of age, go and do your job. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair argument in itself as well. But it's a new world that we live in, and it's not as simple as it used to be.
Just a quick one. You go first, Teddy, because you've got some mail, haven't you?
I think he will leave, but I think the West Coast, if they do think he's going to leave, can be quite pragmatic in the way GWS have been in trading their players. I mean, the way they got Finn Callaghan in, the way they got Cadman in, and the players they picked. I mean, they've been revolving their picks for the last 10 years, continually bringing in great new talent, letting go guys who are very good players on the periphery. West Coast potentially could turn Harley Reid into 3 good players rather than just one champion. And, one champion's really important. But if you can get 3 exceptional players, it can do a good job.
And North probably missed the chance with that with Horn Francis the first year, didn't they?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So you've got to be pragmatic on that.
So look, I don't know whether he's going to go or not, but if West Coast think he is a chance to go, you've got to get on your bike and start to use it as a positive and say, OK.
Would you do a deal for Warner, for example, out of Sydney with that cash out?
If Warner wants to go back, and you'd want more than just Warner, but I think there's a possibility.
The really interesting one is if Harley Reid wants to go this year, because his trade value is a lot higher when he's in contract than when he's out of contract. And that's when West Coast could say, you know what, let's cut our losses now. Let's get 4 first-rounders in. All hypotheticals at the moment, but stranger things have happened.
Just one quick one. Can I ask you, Rory? Because you were that player once upon a time. I remember seeing you play your first game and all your mates from home all were in the forward pocket. They all had signs. And I thought, I put a mark next to your name. I thought, here's one for Collingwood to go after because if ever there was a go home, it was going to be you. And you suddenly played your whole career and you still live in Adelaide.
Yeah, and this is one bit of advice I'd give West Coast because if West Coast really want him to stay and they don't want to get on the front foot, like you're saying, Tom, if they want him to stay, I would get his family and all his friends over there to visit Perth regularly because that's what I did. My friends and family would come over and they'd go, gee, Tex is a good bloke. Gee, Bernie's a great bloke. So is VB. When can we come over next? When can we get involved in the club? When can we see you next, Sloaney? I reckon what Harley Reid's getting at the moment is, oh, mate, when are you coming home? When are you going to come see us? Where I sort of flipped it and we've sort of flipped the script on that at Adelaide at the moment where guys like Rochelle, Saligo, these guys and Sam Berry, they're bringing their friends over and getting involved in our footy club.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, well, he's a brilliant player. That's the great thing.
So will he come home, Tom? You know more than anyone.
I think it's likely he comes home at some stage, but I've got no mail to suggest it's going to be at the end of this contract.
Can I just add one more bit to this? Because it annoys me that there's even an option for such a high draft pick to leave in such an early stage of their career. I think it should be at least a 4-year minimum, 5-year minimum period. You've got to do your time at the footy club, get yourself out of your comfort zone, and just, submerge yourself in that environment before you make a decision.
But that won't fly. It'll get done and restrain a trade in 1 second.
This was part of the negotiation that the players gave it a second year to a third year for the first rounders in the last negotiations, and going to 4 and 5 is a great idea, but the Players Association just wouldn't allow it.
Well, look, I wonder sometimes whether or not, because they're so young, that's the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to make it 21, but using the American system as an example, they go to college, they learn to live away from home, and then they go to the big time. Mind you, they're getting paid big money, so you go where you go.
Yeah.
But it's also, if you don't perform, out you go at the same time. Christian Petracca's an interesting one. Leaving managers, that's sort of where it's got to now. The managers are playing more of a role than the clubs at times. He'll stay with Connors Sports Management as far as the 7 years of his deal. So Connors Sports Management will still get a trailing commission on his deal. But he has now become, Team Petracca or the brand Petracca. They sort of pushed back against that last year, but he is making big money now with his food, and his partner is involved, his fiancée, or they got married?
Wife.
His wife.
Yeah,
Sorry,
his
his wife. And they've got a really good thing going now. So this is interesting. And Rory, you've thought for a long time that the commercial side of players now is going to play a bigger role with management than just the day-to-day contract of a football club.
Well, it's certainly been a growing frustration over the years where players have always questioned why and what managers do to earn their 3 or 4% of a huge contract like Christian's. And that's where you see more players going out and maybe going after a PR company. And if I had my time again, I'd structure it up so differently. I reckon I'd go back to going, I'd get a sports lawyer to do my sports contract. So negotiating with Collingwood, you can come in, I'll pay you my 10 grand fee and I'll get my contract done. I'd hire a PR company to then look after my off-field issue or my off-field stuff, not issues, pardon me. And then I'd get someone like James Hurd or someone in that wealth management space or private equity space or a good accountant to help me look after my funds and set me up for life after footy. There's definitely a better way than it's done at the moment, and across my time I saw a few players leave and swap managers for this reason.
Well, Dermot Brereton was probably one of the first ones. He had IMG to do all that. So he had James Erskine, who was Greg Norman's manager back in those days, and
David Warner's as well.
Oh yeah, but even going right back, I mean, the big international stars was with him. He was Parkinson was one of his clients. I mean, he was as big an international manager as you could get. Hurdy, you came through at a time when the Footy Show took off. You're on Jimmy Pig and Roo Boy. Yep. Were you with Club 10 with Ricky
Club
Nixon?
10 with Ricky Nixon,
which was ahead of its time.
It was ahead of its time.
It was miles ahead of its time, and Ricky's had his issues since. But right in those days, that was a dynamic force. So big was it that the AFL brought Craig Kelly in to start up his management group so that there was a counter to it because it was becoming too powerful. Yeah. Did it work well back then?
It did. So I actually went down the same path you're talking about. I had a person, an accountant called John Reardon, negotiate my contract. Ben Crowe looked after my business affairs or the brands, and he had Club 10. So different people for different things, and it worked really well. There wasn't one person, because I don't think there's one person who has all the skills. If you want to have all your affairs looked after properly, you do need experts in the field. And
there are companies now out there that have recognised there's a gap in this market, and I expect to see a huge change and a huge shake-up in the industry soon, because there are some that do it well, as you mentioned. There are players that do it incredibly well and use accountants and wealth managers to look after them.
And I know that the big-time international players have always thought it's too Mickey Mouse. We don't want to be worrying about paying a gas bill for some bloke who's on a couple hundred grand. Now that the salary cap is exponentially increasing, some big names, I'm hearing the same thing as you are starting to look at coming into this area, and particularly with a commercial situation. It might actually be reversed engineered, where you actually have people who have clients who will then go out looking for the players rather than the other way around.
And I think what Christian Petracca has realised, and he and his wife have realised, that the brand they're building and what they're building can be bigger than his actual football career going forward. So to lock yourself into one person just negotiating a contract, this is not about his football career. I think this is about his life after football. And to me, good on him. You have to build something outside of football. As long as you're not, not making it all about yourself on the ground, off the ground, why not build that brand and lead yourself to good life?
Guys, might be a company start up soon with the three of our insights, so look out, Ed.
Exactly. I'll be the media manager.
Yeah.